What's up everyone, my name's Colin. Welcome to 4 Ounce Insight. In this video, I have to make an admission. Francis Ngannou is not the biggest name in boxing. He's the biggest name in combat sports, hands down. Here he is again, stepping into the square circle against Anthony Joshua. How did we get here so quickly? Well, we got here really quickly because Ngannou's the biggest name in combat sports right now. He's about to make somewhere in the region of 20 million. I'm not sure if it's pounds or dollars. I don't care which currency you want to use. He's going to earn 20 mil for his second pro boxing fight, and he lost the first one. Now, AJ is definitely making more. I think he's making double that. But I'm going to say AJ isn't the A-side here. He is not the A-side here. AJ chose Ngannou for what reason? Quickest route to the belt. He's after Fury or Usyk, whoever wins that one. I'm even a little bit stumped by this, right? So, obviously he did really, when I say he, Ngannou, did really well against Fury. I've got a video about that, stating that he was the biggest name in boxing, and I definitely think that's still the case. I just think he's transcended it all now. So now he's the biggest name in combat sports. But that was, let's face it, it was always seen as a bit of a joke by a lot of people, apart from Francis. It was way tighter than everyone expected it to be. We've heard the excuses. Tyson didn't show up. But who's the winner of that fight? Now, I know what it says on the pro record, but look what's happened to Ngannou and look what's happened to Fury. Fury's stock has crashed. He's now got a very tough opponent in Usyk. Ngannou's stock has risen so dramatically. Another heavyweight has called him out, arranged a fight because they know he's the fast pass. Ngannou is the fast pass now. He's the A side of this. Now, AJ's taking a lot of risks. And I think, there'll be lots of videos on the X's and O's of this and breaking it down. But both men have got the same reward, but both men are not carrying the same risk. So AJ could be about to destroy his boxing career and legacy. And Ngannou is about to take all of it. I mean, he has to win first. But it has to be. AJ's going to have to go out there and dominate him to justify that, basically, look what I did and Fury couldn't do it. Now, there is a man mountain in the way of that dream and goal. First of all, when these two squared off, they're huge. They're absolutely massive individuals. And it wasn't the same as Fury. Fury's tall, he's big, he's bubbly, he's charismatic, he bounces around, he's a bit crazy, all of those things. These two are just huge athletes. Huge. God damn it. Ngannou is thick. AJ's definitely taller. Looks a bit more sort of lean, a bit more athletic. If he was standing next to any other human being, I wouldn't use any of those things. I would just say he's tall, he's built like a brick shit ass. He's a tank of a human. But against Ngannou, he actually looks like he's got the more athletic build. And this is going to be, Ngannou's boxing skills. He's now, people have seen what he's got. There's no more surprises. That was definitely brought up at the press conference. almost pinning it to, oh, there was a bit of shock value, but, you know, AJ isn't going to have that problem. Again, pressure mounting on AJ, no pressure on Ngannou. And this is where this fight is particularly tricky. In my opinion, the trickiness of this fight is around the will to win. This is a mental battle. This isn't a skill for skill, or I'm going to wage my athletic prowess against your athletic prowess. This is a battle of the minds. It really, really is. You know, Ngannou cuts quite a stoic figure. He doesn't show too many emotions, especially when he's fighting. He's not a very up and down human being. He's very level headed. He's very consistent in his demeanor. AJ, on the other hand, we've seen he kind of, you know what's going on the inside. He wears his inside out. He wears his heart on his sleeve. That's probably a better way of putting it. You can very much see when the fight is going well, when it's not going well, when he feels like something's not quite right, when he feels like the fight's slipping away. He's also someone that doesn't seem to adapt readily in fights. So he hasn't got a box of tricks like Fury did. He hasn't got some of those kind of, how can I put it? He doesn't seem to have that pure desire to win and, should we say, be prepared to bend some of the rules to do it. And not only that, just, you know, that unwavering self-belief. I think when times get hard and you see that chink, you know, he can unravel a little bit. Now, let's talk about the conference, because there's going to be lots of videos about the fights. I'm sure I'll pick some up. I'll definitely be doing a video with Old Lion. And we'll get into a bit of banter about MMA and boxing. But the press conference, the media hub, whatever the correct term is, it was a very, very different event than Ngannou Fury. Ngannou Fury was much more playful. It was much more... There was much more of a spectacle about it. It was very much being painted that way. You know, we still had all the same bright lights and the wonderful canapes, and the majority of people showing up. It wasn't quite as large. It wasn't, but like I say, the whole demeanor was very, very different. Very different. There was atmosphere. There was some tension there. The crowd weren't bubbling like they were before. It wasn't playful. People were quiet. They were attentive. They were waiting to see what was being said. Now, none of that seemed to bother Ngannou, right? Ngannou looked like he just turned up at Costa Coffee first thing in the morning. Looked a bit sleepy. You know, he was very chill, very relaxed, as you would expect. But AJ cut a very different figure. Very stern, very... I'm trying to find the right words. You could mistake it for focus, and it could very well be focus. I could be seeing more into it than there isn't. It seemed more like he was slighted. Like he felt like he was cheapening himself in some way, that he was being disrespected, having to jump through this hoop to get what it is that he wanted. Now, AJ in his early career was very bubbly. He's very affable. We saw a lot of him on British television. He's very much that sports person that you could imagine getting into broadcasting, because he's very friendly, he speaks well, he's always smiling, laughing. Of late, he's not cut that figure. He's way more intense. And I don't know if that's on purpose, like whether he's kind of dialed in a little bit and he's really trying to drag that mean streak out of him and keep it there for a long period of time so he can get through some of these fights. Or, just generally, he's just reached that stage where he's like, the hype's kind of come off him a little bit. He's not being universally loved like he once was. He's not the name on the tip of everyone's tongue. Like, you got to remember, heavyweight champion. And for us Brits, that was huge. a really fantastic fighter. Always had a couple of question marks about him, but a really good fighter. This sullen, aggressive looking AJ was a bit. It dominate for me. It dominated the room. His demeanor shaped the demeanor of the room. There was this moment. I can't remember if it was around the time that the Sheikh, or I should know his official title, the Crown Prince, or whatever his official title is, he was chatting. And AJ smiled. He had a really broad smile. He just looked relaxed for a second, more like the AJ that we'd seen in the past. And as he smiled, he looked down the aisle, and I was sitting there. And for the briefest of seconds, we made eye contact. And I would have bet my house on the fact that the second we made eye contact, his face changed. Went straight back. It was like he smiled, he suddenly made eye contact with someone, and he went back. I was terrified. So I was like, does this guy know me? Does he recognise me? Have I done something wrong? Shouldn't I be looking like... It's the sort of look, like when you're at a pub and someone looks at you and then they switch that face on and you're like, there's something about to happen there. It scared the pants out of me. And I was a good 5-6 rows back. And that was the overall feel. It was quite tense. The promoters, Eddie, Hearn, Warren, they were a bit more jovial, a lot more respectful of Ngannou, a lot more... I think they're seeing the opportunities in boxing away from the current setup and structure. This Crown Prince coming up with all these ideas. I'm sure I'll get into it with Old Lion. But the 5-man tournament, I watched that, and I fell out of love with boxing. And maybe it needs that character to kind of mix things up, throw some money at it, stop fighters avoiding each other. Who cares whether it's a WBA, a WBC, an IBF? What? I don't even know what the belts are anymore. Who cares? We've always wanted to see, as fight fans, the best fighters fight the best fighters. And in boxing, I feel like that sport lost a lot of fans because that would never happen. Because promoter A wouldn't speak to promoter B. And organisation A wanted to protect their champion and wouldn't let them, fight this guy. Or some TV station has got some rights over some fighters. The craziness, 2 years in contract negotiations, and they were arguing over the colour of M&Ms and things like that. It's pathetic. And maybe a serious lump of cash from one individual who's clearly a fan, maybe that'll shake things up a little bit. I don't know. That's for the boxing community to discuss. The Crown Prince has clearly decided, I've got a lot of money, I just want to see the fights I want to see. And I want to see it in the way that I want to see it. And I think, you might bring some fans along for the ride. I'll definitely be tuning in. Now, with all of these presses, you do get to wander around. I didn't manage to get anywhere near the fighters. I'll be perfectly honest, I'm still new to this, throwing elbows with some of the big boys. It's going to take a little while to find my feet, know who's who and where to move. Nearly had a chat with Barry McGuigan. Had a chat with a few other YouTubers. The Mac Life boys were down there. So a really, really good fun event. And I hope to get to do an MMA one real soon. I'll keep hounding Cage Warriors to get a press pass down there. But I've got a bit of work to do. I need to grow the channel. I need to grow this channel so that I can get into some of these events. But yeah, I did manage to catch up with Dan Hardy, who is the ever-present representative of MMA, especially for the UK. We did have a chat over some of the PFL stuff. I did ask him a couple of questions around the boxing. The trouble is when I see him, I want to talk MMA. And that's not what he's really there for. And he's so generous with his time, but there's always a queue of people around him to see him. So I managed to get 10 minutes, asked him a few questions about the fight, did ask him some MMA stuff, and I'll drop that into another video. But here's the brief conversation we had about this. And it was interesting that he didn't disagree with me saying he was the biggest name in combat sports. He did offer up another one, which was undoubtedly the biggest. What did he say? Biggest draw or biggest purse in heavyweight. Do you know what? Why am I guessing or trying to remember? Check it out. So I'm here with Dan Hardy at another amazing MMA boxing crossover. After the first fight with Ngannou, I made some less than nice jokes to my boxing friends that Ngannou's now the biggest name in boxing. And I think how quickly this fight has turned around might be now that he's the biggest fighter in combat sports, hands down. How has he made that jump from a lot of people questioning him, me included, free agency, new contracts, to this?
Yeah.
Because it's a big transition stylistically, but the heart of a man to be able to do that that's impressive.
Very, very impressive. It took so much confidence for him to just back himself and say, you know what, I'm going to fight out my UFC contract and see what the opportunities are there for me. I mean, it could have all gone terribly, right? He could have fought out his UFC contract, not got signed with the PFL, not got an opportunity to have a boxing match, or even it could have gone halfway. He could have stepped in there against Fury and just looked terrible, and everyone was like, well, that was a silly idea, you should have stayed in the UFC, you know? But not only did he back himself, but he also fulfilled his potential. And I think that's the most special thing about it, because like you can do one half of the job and put yourself in the situation, but then making the most of it. And as you said, you know, potentially the biggest name in combat sports, I would certainly say is the biggest commodity in heavyweight boxing right now. Not potentially an opponent, because I feel like AJ's looking at Ngannou like an opportunity to open some more doors for himself. And I do feel like some panic is going to set in on the day when he realises that he's actually got to get in against him and do the job. And I think that happened to Fury as well, when he realised how much pressure was on his shoulders, and really that he didn't know exactly what he was dealing with. Unknown commodity in Ngannou. You know, that surprise factor is not necessarily there anymore, which is why I feel like AJ's looking at this like an opportunity to open up a door for him.
So a chess move to get closer to, for me, there's a bit of a question about heart in this one. So not to sort of belittle AJ, but when times are hard, he always doesn't look like his plan B's readily accessible in his brain. Whereas Ngannou, he's still on that kind of upward trajectory. I can do anything. Look what I've achieved. Do we feel this comes down to less skill and more the will to win? Or because AJ should have the skills, but then so should a Fury.
Absolutely, yeah, and I agree with you. I think this is far more of a psychological game than anything else. Like the thing is, like Fury's difficult to hit. He's a very smart, intelligent fighter, but he's also very difficult to get inside the head of. Right? He's difficult to rile. He's very good at commanding that psychological game as well. Whereas AJ, I don't know, if he's got that same kind of fortitude. So the things that Fury came up against in that fight, the surprise of how powerful he is, of how composed he is, of how fast he is when he decides to move, and how strong he is in the clinch. These were all things that Fury was able to kind of, it's okay, I've got this, I can still deal with this. Like, there was at no point, at least he didn't show it to anybody, that there was a point where psychologically he was starting to really question himself. I mean, when he hit the canvas and looked over at his corner, maybe they read in his eyes, oh, hang on a minute, this is not a good situation. But I certainly feel like AJ carries that on his sleeve a lot more. It's much easier to judge when he's struggling with something psychologically. And I do feel like I always go back to my own fight days. You wake up on fight day and you realise that today's the day you've got to do the job, and then you take into account the job you've got to do. And when the job is so unknown, like Ngannou, and now Ngannou's got the confidence of being able to do 10 rounds, what does that do for him? And
he scares the life out of me just looking at him. To be across the ring from is terrifying.
Yeah.
So that was me and Dan having a brief chat. I wish I could have spoke with him more. I did try and catch him a little bit later. Really, I was going to try and delve into some more MMA stuff. But like I said, I mean, compared to some of the other broadcasters, presenters and stuff, that he was there early gate. He was talking to everybody. And after sort of the main bits, he was being pulled pillar to post. Like, that guy works. I'm not saying the other people there are lazy, but there are a few people turn up, do their bit and off. He was there for hours. He was doing the rounds. He was talking to everybody, big, small, all always polite, always friendly, always comes across very sincere. So, and I didn't act like a big girl this time, which was nice. It was a personal win for me. I'm getting used to talking to people, which is why I always just found it a bit easier sitting here with my camera and a mic. But fantastic event. Ngannou, undoubtedly the biggest name in combat sports, undoubtedly the biggest name in boxing, and I never thought I would say AJ isn't the A side on this one. If you'd given it to me a few years ago, I'd say, what, AJ fighting Ngannou? Yeah, of course. But why are you tuning in? Let's be honest. Let's be perfectly honest. Why are we all tuning in? It's not to see AJ smoke Ngannou and reset the norm. Oh, MMA boxing, bang. Oh, it's all done now. Just a blip. No, nothing to look here. No, we're tuning in for this legendary story, and it is the stuff of legends. Ngannou's story is fantastic, and I'm not going to bore you all with repeating it. You know the sand mine stuff. You know the going across dangerous waters in dinghies when he can't swim. We know what his fight career is. But this book isn't even over. This book isn't even over, and he just keeps doing more and more impressive things. You can't tell me he hasn't inspired an entire continent. You can't tell me there's not, people in Africa now going, maybe that's a way out for me. It's not going to be long before there are gyms out there sweeping up the talent. It's a massive continent. Like, let's not think of just the countries that there are. There are going to be plenty of people that are in poverty that will see this as a way out. And there are some physical specimens, and there is a high population there. We are going to see untold champions coming from that region. And, hopefully some infrastructure there so that they can actually do it, and they can be, African born, African trained, African champions, that they don't have to travel all around the world to get the best knowledge. And I think that will be part of this legend of Francis Ngannou. That will be his legacy. And in the meantime, we just all get to sit back and enjoy the ride. As a Brit, of course I want AJ to do well. Oh, I can't believe I'm actually, but I want to see Ngannou win, because I want to see this next chapter. I want to see how far this story can go. Conor was one and done. Ngannou has been called out by an established heavyweight boxer because he's the golden ticket. He's the chess move. He's the gatekeeper at 0-1. All good things that come to him. I hope AJ does well. I don't want his career to go down the pan. He's going to get a lot of stick if he loses. And if Ngannou does something truly terrifying, like knocking him out early, that's a hard road to rebuild. He's been rebuilding his career as bit by bit, and he's had some slips, but that one is a risk, and that might put a nail in the coffin. And I think, like I said earlier, they've both got the same reward. They don't have the same risk. One of them is slightly more emotionally fragile than the other one. Ngannou right now must think he's Midas. Everything he's touching is turning to gold. Everything he's saying he'll do happens. That's my 4-ounce insight. Let me know yours in the comments section below. Like I said, I'll be doing something with Old Lion, and I'm sure some more videos will come up about this as things evolve. So until next time, make sure you subscribe, thumbs up, bell notifications, all of that other fun stuff. But until next time, stay healthy, and I'll see you soon.